After I left the Navy and was dating my now husband, I hooked up with a local group of friends and a guy we'll call Dave. Dave was a guy from back in the AD&D days, and I can relate as I started with that as well. But Dave was also the kind of guy that liked to do his own thing, but at the same time, let players do what they liked. He had come up with his own little world and pantheon, made a nice map for a starting area which he had framed up on his wall. And when he got our little merry band together, he told us that is where we're going to be starting. Yet when it came to character creation, this is where the nightmare started. Dave did not care what D&D system we used to make our characters, whether it be AD&D, 3rd, 3.5, 4th, or 5th edition, and he did nothing to help us create our characters. When we sat at his kitchen table and asked him for help, input, or advice as to which system would work best in the world that he had created, even if we should just use a generic D20 system, he didn't give us anything. Dave just continued to play World of Warcraft on his computer. I finally took charge and told everyone that we would use the base D20 system and use races in the core D&D 5th edition to keep things simple. Once that was done, Dave ended his World of Warcraft session and sat down at the table, and we started to game. The start of our adventure was simple. All of our party met up at a local tavern where we all were level 1 adventurers who had been hired by the local magistrate to find out what happened to a caravan carrying goods that was supposed to go from town A to town B, but for some reason it never got to town B. After introductions, we all headed off to town B. This is when everything went wrong. The moment we stepped out of the tavern, Dave rolled the dice and we had our first random encounter. We broke the fight up and continued on to the city gates. Dave rolled the dice again, and we had another random encounter, with a group of beggars this time. Then we continued to the city gates. Once we got to the gates, Dave rolled once more, and we had an encounter with the city guards, who didn't want to let us out of the gates. This was despite the fact that this was a bustling trade city, and it was in the middle of the day, so we had to negotiate that. Finally, we got out of the city gates and started walking. Dave rolled the dice and we were attacked by goblins, so we slaughtered them. We walked 10 steps. Dave rolled the dice and we met a group of traveling performers in a wagon who tried to peddle us wine. When we walked 20 more steps, Dave rolled again and we were suddenly attacked by a level 10 tree wraith thing of his own design which nearly killed everyone. At this point, several of us are looking at Dave and becoming quite annoyed that we have spent nearly 2 hours in this campaign and we haven't gotten anywhere near our quest because of all these random encounters, and our party was nearly destroyed because he threw some random tree beast at us. Yet, Dave laughed it off as it was on us to overcome the challenges the dice threw at us, like it wasn't on him, but all up to the dice throw. So we took a short rest to heal everyone up and recover, and we started on the road again. Yet more pointless and time-consuming random encounters awaited us. There was a jester with a monkey, some random child wandering alone in the woods looking for apples. My husband's character convinced everyone to just leave the child because it might be a demon in disguise, and we all agreed to Dave's horror. A two-headed cyclops that we barely managed to fight, and then suddenly, a level 20 black dragon. That's right, level 1 players versus a level 20 black dragon. At this point, every party member at the table had absolutely had enough, and we all began to loudly protest. It was taking way too long to get to town B. We had no clues as to what is our original quest, or what even happened to the caravan that we were supposed to investigate. There were just way too many random encounters. None of us were having any sort of fun, and now we were all gonna die, because there was no possible way in any situation where our level 1 characters were going to survive against a level 20 black dragon. Dave, in an attempt to appease us, had us all roll stealth checks to see if we could hide and go unnoticed by the dragon, which thank goodness we did, and the dragon moved on. He then finally allowed us to find what remained of the caravan. It had been attacked and dragged off the road. And just as we started to pursue the villains behind its disappearance, Dave went right back to the random encounters. I looked at Dave and said, "Dave, I have never said this to another DM, but you need to stop rolling the dice. I'm not playing Dungeons and Dragons, I'm playing Final Fantasy, and this is horrible." My husband nearly choked on his beer, and everyone at the table finally, after nearly 5 hours of awful gameplay, laughed. At this point, we all agreed to stop for the evening as it had been 5 hours since we started, and we politely thanked Dave for running the session, and we did not come back for another one. And I drove my poor drunk husband home. Now this is a strange one. It seemed like the DM just let the dice do the talking a little bit too much. I'm all for a bit of randomness in a game, but there's a limit. The whole game cannot be procedurally generated, or you're going to get level 1 PCs fighting a level 20 dragon. DMs seem to play WoW just a little bit too much. But what do you all think?